Hello and welcome everyone, I'm the Rambling Director. I had hoped that this video would be the George C. Scott version. However, I got started late because a friend came home from the military, and I really just wanted to spend a lot of time with him, and now we're approaching into the holidays. I got the George C. Scott video made, but I had some technical issues rendering it, so it's just not going to be ready in time for the day before Thanksgiving, which was really what I was hoping for. So I ended up making this as kind of a replacement video. Don't worry, I know a lot of you have asked for George C. Scott, and you're going to get it, I promise you. In early December you will get that video, but it's just going to take a little while longer to finish it than I had anticipated. So I hope you all will be patient with me and bear with me as I get that finished. In the meantime, I do have a really fascinating piece of Christmas Carol history for you all. You see, the very first film adaptation of A Christmas Carol was the 1901 film Scrooge, or Marley's Ghost. It was a British production made by Paul's Animatograph Works. It's generally thought to be the earliest version of A Christmas Carol. There may have been others, but it is definitely the earliest to survive. Again, 1901, that's an early movie. And you can tell when you watch it because it's all big, wide shots. This was the time when basically, because film was considered kind of a novelty, they were all short films. This was sort of we would go and watch a play on film sort of thing, right? So there was no close-ups, no real editing, so to speak, and very, very few inner title cards. Now, there's really just not enough to make a full video about it because it's only around 3 to 5 minutes long, depending on what your frame rate you're watching it at is. And also, it is a partially lost film. There are segments of it that are just gone, including the redemption at the end. In 1908, the first version, called A Christmas Carol, was made, starring Thomas Ricketts. It was made by a Chicago-based film company. However, it is a completely lost film, so there's not even a way to really talk about it at any depth. I don't even think we have any stills or posters from it. Now we come to the one I really want to talk about today, the Edison Company's version. This is a 13-minute short film starring Marc McDermott and was made in 1910. This is the earliest complete Christmas Carol. At least I'm pretty sure it's complete. There's a couple little snippets at the end where it seems like the frames may have become decomposed and they had to cut a couple little snippets out, but for the most part it seems pretty much complete, and everything I've been able to find suggests that this is the entire film, just with a few frames missing. That it is really difficult to do the feature-length commentary nowadays that I started off doing, for the simple reason that I can't hardly get them up on YouTube without immediately getting copyright flagged. However, this version's been out of copyright for a long time, so me and my pumpkin pie blanket should be completely safe on this one. The Day Before Christmas, a hard-fisted miser. Ooh, okay. See, the titles on this one they go by pretty quickly, but that's okay. It's not too bad. You see how everything is set up to work with one single shot. Again, that's because these old films like this, they didn't consider film an art form. There was not really a lot of experimentation, so to speak, in these sort of popular films. They pretty much set up one single shot like a play, and they staged the whole thing between the proscenium of the 4:3 aspect ratio. Now, you can see just by the body language that they have to get a lot of this stuff across without words. Even more so than in later Christmas Carol silent movies, like the one with Seymour Hicks, made just a few years after this. You see, at this time there still was not a lot of dialogue cards, and you just wouldn't see a lot of them. They would be put in only in the most extreme of cases. So see, Fred and the carolers come by here, and we get Scrooge sending them away. So they have to pantomime to you, oh, I can't hear you, send the carolers away. Fred, of course, reaching out, wanting his uncle's hand in friendship, and Scrooge completely ignoring him. Scrooge raging at the people outside. We can assume that those are the carolers, they're being too loud. Bob Cratchit has to point at the clock, oh sir, it's time to leave. And even though he can't get across the lines, he has to say, oh, you're picking my pocket, well, get out of here, fine, do what you want. The ghostly face of his former partner Marley. Watch this. Now, notice, Scrooge is stooping low in that scene, right? He's staying low because he doesn't know where the visual effect is going to go. That is not a projector, by the way. That's a double exposure that they're using to put Marley's face on the knocker. So he has to stay low in order to let the image get over him. Now, I have wondered if maybe the image of Scrooge crouching down the way we see in things like the Jim Carrey version, which has now become a cliche for artwork of Scrooge, if it might have originated from that moment. Oh, look at Marley, he has the single chain around his waist. It's kind of cool. You see that in a lot of artwork of Marley, too, just that single chain. So the reason I mention that is because in Dracula, it's a funny thing, but we get the image of Bela Lugosi holding the cape over his face from a mistake in the film. It's a mistake in editing, so he was doing that to protect himself from the herb, the wolfsbane herb, but because they edited the sequence kind of funny, it seems like he's just doing it to look cool, which it does look cool. There it is, the spirit of Christmas recalls incidents of his youth and early manhood. Now, if you notice, Christmas Past here has a crown of holly leaves, and some versions of Christmas Present in later productions would have that. I love this, that in order to keep the shot more or less in one room and keeping with the standard of the time, one shot, they show Past kind of just projecting his past into the room behind them. I really, really think that's creative. That's a very clever use of the space. So they are double exposing these images together, but it really works out well. They've been very careful with the lighting on the bed back there, so that when they project this image, I say project, but again, it's a double exposure. When they double expose the image, the bed does not get in the way of the scene you're actually looking at. In fact, the bedpost is kind of designed, the curtains are kind of designed to keep out of the way of the image. You see, even the chandelier kind of marks the centerpiece of the bed tassel up there. That's very, very well planned out. There's Belle leaving him, and he's like, oh, I will be a stoic philosopher. It doesn't bother me. Visions of the Present. Now, the Ghost of Christmas Present in this is really cool, and there's one specific reason I'll show you. I could be wrong here, but the film is kind of, it's old. It's hard to tell sometimes. Look at that. I think the Ghost of Christmas Present is sitting on a Christmas tree. Look, there's big bulbs and stuff at the bottom. Maybe it's supposed to be piles of food, like you see in a lot of versions, but to me, those big bulbs at the bottom make it look like that ghost is sitting on a Christmas tree. Kind of like a Christmas present on the shelf, if you will. Again, I just love that big long robe for Christmas present. Very cool. So you see little shadows in the background of the Christmas with the Cratchits, and of course the Christmas party with Fred. So we see Scrooge's nephew rejected for the want of money, and if you really are sharp-eyed, you'll see he's asking for his girlfriend's hand in marriage, and the father is rejecting him, turning him down because he doesn't have enough money. Now, I wish they would have gotten that across a little clearer, because the first time I watched it, I was really unclear what was going on in this scene, because the father is like only half in the frame, and it's because they had to squeeze so much into the frame. I actually would have preferred them stagger Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Present a little bit better and make more room, but so to my mind it was kind of a lingering question the first time I saw it, exactly why he was rejected. These are misery and want. You see, they just pop up at the bottom of the screen instead of ignorance and want. I don't know why they changed the name, but adaptations. Now we come to the final and my personal favorite ghost, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. Oh, yeah, big emotions, Scrooge. Me? Oh. Visions of the future, a miser's death. Now, this is my favorite part of this film. Okay, get ready for it, okay? Now, Yet to Come is actually quite a cool design with that veil over the face and stuff. But check out the tombstone, okay? This is so funny. Oh, we're not there yet. Yeah, we got to see Scrooge actually die, and Miss Dilber checking that he's dead, and then stealing stuff right off of his body, which is a great way of kind of condensing that moment. Look at her shifty eyes. Who's looking? I'm getting away with it. Now check out the tombstone. Ebenezer Scrooge. He lived and died without a friend. That is so funny. And now that Scrooge is redeemed, the next ghost that they have to visit is the jerk who wrote that on his tombstone after he died. That is such a mean-spirited thing. I mean, can you imagine anybody writing that? Oh, Christmas morning, awakened by a Christmas carol to a new life. Even though this is a silent one, it actually works in the idea of a Christmas Carol much, much better. See, there's the only title card, or only dialogue card in there, and it's what the boys are singing, the choir is singing outside. So Scrooge is like, oh, it's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Praise the spirits. So he's very excited. Of course, you're getting visuals of some of the lines. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. These are my bed curtains, you know. Of course, we didn't see Miss Dilber steal the bed curtains in this version. But check this out. This is quite great. He just throws money at them. Fred's girlfriend, her father would not accept them because he didn't have enough money. And now we're about to get kind of the payoff for that. Why he was rejected. Now, again, I think they could have probably gotten that across a little bit better, especially when it was shoved into 1/3 of the frame. But you know, whatever. This is an early film, and they were still kind of getting the language of film right in these early days. Check this out. He comes out with his little girlfriend, fiance, but Scrooge has something special for him. So he's acting, ooh, you bad nephew. He doesn't know I'm going to do this. As my business partner, you, my nephew, will be able to marry the girl of your choice. So see, he's made Fred a business partner in this one, so that he can afford to have his marriage. And that's kind of a neat little way of playing this moment. And she's happy. Oh, yay, I get to marry him. My dad can't say no. And now they're both hugging him. Uncle Scrooge, we love you. And, of course, they all kind of walk off together. Very cute little moment. I really like that. It's a different version of this moment, but you know what? It really does kind of work in its own strange way. It would have been hard to get across the familial relationship from the book without dialogue, because we don't really... Oh, did you see him looking out the window? So he's kind of like getting them to come in behind him. I think that's kind of neat. And they're laying out the gifts for him. But check this out. This was the first version to do something... first version as far as I can tell. To do something that a lot of other versions have done. Bob is ready to hit him with the fire poker back there. Or the coal shovel. Lots of versions have Scrooge come in and pretend to make Cratchit work on Christmas Day, but then, oh, I actually brought you presents and I want to make you my partner or whatever. And this version, you can see it's the first version to do that. And look, Scrooge is crying because he's done this. Now check this out. This is really interesting. We just get a bunch of jump cuts here. You saw jump cuts a lot more in old movies. Now those jump cuts were not meant to be part of the editing. Remember, we already talked about there wasn't a lot of editing in these early films from the 1900s and the 1910s, early 1910s. What you got in this case is jump cuts because the film is made of highly flammable material called nitrate, and the film just decomposes over time. So more than likely, when they found the 1910 version, the end just had some decomposition. Makes sense, because the end would be on the outer part or the most inner part of the reel, which are the parts that tend to take the most wear and tear. They probably snipped out the parts that were completely decomposed and stitched them together. So that's why that last scene seems so rushed and so hectic with jump cuts all over the place. It's the best preservation work they could have done at the time when it was remastered or preserved. So we can see the real evolution of how we adapt this story, even from some of the earliest versions. Of course, the 1901 version that I mentioned at the beginning adapts very loosely. In fact, Marley's ghost is the one who shows him everything. He's the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. However, it's kind of hard to tell really any lasting impact that that version had, because it's just so short and so much of it was obviously lost. However, the 1910 version, we get Scrooge's fake out redemption, where he pretends to be a bad guy again to kind of play a prank on people before giving them out of the goodness of his spirit. We see things like the fancy costume adaptations of the ghost. It would have been easy to put a black cloak on Yet to Come, yet they chose a funeral veil to cast a pall on the whole scenario. And of course the ghost all being played by one person. That's another little thing that we get in a couple of different versions that you don't see a lot. Now maybe they did that out of economic expediency. However, whatever the reason was, it really, really works. And again, just generally a lot of the characterization of Scrooge, if you watch carefully, comes from the physicality of Marc McDermott. A lot of other actors clearly took inspiration from the way he behaves and acts as Scrooge, even in little ways that you wouldn't think would have had an impact. But they did. Despite the fact this was an Edison Company film made in 1910, one of the oldest versions, it somehow still is an incredibly impactful version. Maybe not despite, but because it's one of the oldest versions. So anyway, I just wanted to give it a little bit of love. It's on YouTube. In fact, the 1901 Scrooge or Marley's Ghost version is also on YouTube. Go and check them out yourself without me prattling over them, and enjoy what are two very, very interesting pieces of Christmas history. Thank you everybody for watching. God bless you, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.